Hello all, if you are new, my name is Marin. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my next round of Bookopoly, this time choosing my books for June. So let's go ahead and get into it. As always, we are going to go ahead and start off with a recap of how I did with my May prompts, so let's go ahead and take a look at them. My first roll landed on Mood Read. I picked Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave by Elle Casimano, and I did read it. Then I used a reward prompt to combine two of my prompts, so I combined Person on the Cover and Fiction, and for that I chose In the Weeds by B.K. Borison, which I did read. My next roll landed me on TBR Vet. For that, I chose The Husbands by Holly Gramazio, and I did read it. My next roll landed me on Vlog, so I was supposed to pick a book that I was going to feature in a vlog, and I initially picked my buzzword pick for May, which was supposed to be Cracked Up to Be by Courtney Summers. However, I made it 25 pages into this and put it aside. I have a very hit or miss relationship with Courtney Summers, and this one started off as a miss. I am not fully giving up on it, but I'm not going to finish reading it right now, and I did not finish it in May. However, I did read a different book for a vlog, which was Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker. This will be featured in an upcoming vlog. So technically, I could say that I did complete that prompt. However, the final roll landed me on seasonal, so I was to pick a book from my seasonal TBR, in this case, Spring. I chose Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu, and I didn't finish this one. I'm 100 pages into it, and I didn't finish it solely because I had no compulsion to read at all for the last 2 months of May. I easily could have finished this, and I chose not to. So we are going to go ahead and say that I failed this TBR, and I will be picking a challenge prompt because I did not read this one and I did not finish this one. So this will be read in an upcoming vlog, so you can stay tuned for that. I did like what I read of it. I just didn't want to read, so I didn't. And now we have a challenge prompt to pick because of it, which is fine. I have not picked a challenge prompt at all yet in 2025. It was bound to happen. I easily could have finished this TBR, and I just chose not to. So that is my own fault. We'll go ahead and pick a challenge prompt. Now, a lot of people call them punishments. I'm not really viewing them as punishments. These are challenges, things that I'm adding to my reading to make it a little bit more difficult, but I wouldn't say that I'm punishing myself. It's like a fine line to walk. But anyway, I have 4 challenge prompts that I have so far come up with. So if you have ideas, feel free to leave them down below in the comments, but we're gonna go ahead and pick one of them to start off and see what is gonna happen with this TBR. All right, so I lied. There's 5 challenge cards, so I'm gonna go ahead and just tell you what I've got. I have a +1 roll, so instead of starting with 5 rolls, I would start with 6. I have all books must come from my owned TBR, which would be very, very tricky because I do rely heavily on the library. The next one is to read a classic. Then I have read a nonfiction, which would actually come in handy for June because I have a nonfiction that I need to read anyway. And then the last one says half of books chosen must be read physically. If you know anything about my reading habits, I rely heavily on audiobooks during the school year. That is how I get a lot of my reading done during the course of the week. However, I'm on summer break, so that one probably wouldn't be as difficult this month as it would in a month where I am working. So, you know, maybe that one wouldn't be so bad either. But anyway, I have them right here. I'm gonna go ahead and mix them up. We're gonna pick one and we're gonna see what I need to add or do for this TBR. So here we go. I'm gonna just go ahead and mix them up so that they are not in the order that I just read to you. And I do have just this side facing me, so I'm not cheating. And then I'm gonna go ahead, shuffle them this way, and we're gonna pull off the top. So we have read a nonfiction. I swear I didn't cheat that. This is perfect. I'm gonna do that anyway. I'll talk about the nonfiction book at the end because I will add it to my TBR if it doesn't work for other roles. So, okay, this was the best one that I could have gotten, honestly. So let's go ahead and set up the game board and see what I'm going to be reading in June. All right, a couple things before we get started. I did forget to mention, I do still have 2 reward prompts from previous months. So I'm gonna go ahead and set them here just in case I need to use them. And then this is the challenge prompt, which I will put here as well. We are starting on seasonal because that is where I ended last month. So let's go ahead and do roll number 1. All right, we are starting with a 6. And we have a thriller. All right, as you saw, roll 1 landed me on thriller. This is perfect because I will be reading This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. This is on my 2025 TBR, and I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like the last couple books that she has released have gotten very mixed reviews, and I think this is another one that has gotten mixed reviews. So we'll see what I think. I liked her last one. I'm blanking on the name. It's this one right here. A lot of people did not, but I really had a good time with that. So we'll see. But it says, after the unexpected death of her father, college student Jane Sharp longs for a distraction from her grief. She becomes obsessed with the morbid world of true crime, befriending armchair detectives who teach her how to hunt killers from afar. In this dark internet underground, Jane finds friendship, purpose, and even glory. So when the shocking deaths of 3 college girls in Delphine, Idaho capture the world's imagination, Jane and her friends are determined to beat everyone racing to solve the case. But the murders turn out to be stranger than anyone expected. Details don't add up, the police are cagey, and there seems to be more media hype and internet theorizing than actual evidence. When Jane and her sleuths get closer, every answer only begs new questions. They begin to suspect their killer may be smarter and more prolific than any they've faced before. Placing themselves in the center of the story starts to feel more and more like walking into a trap. Yes, I am excited to read this one and very curious to see what I think. So I'm glad that this fit on the TBR. This is a good start. All right, roll number 2. And we have a double because of course we do. It is another 6. And we have the pick for the Literally Dead book club. That is always handy to get on the TBR officially. All right, roll 2 gave me a double, so we are up to 6 rolls, and the prompt that I landed on was Literally Dead book club. I love when I'm able to put this and the buzzword on my official TBR instead of having to read them in addition to. It just helps so much with time management. So I'm very glad this one came up. I do not own the book for June. It is Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin. I have put a request in from my library though. Hopefully this one will come in on time and I'll be able to read it in June, but here is the first part of the synopsis. It says, a twisted, tangled story about workplace love affairs and plants with a taste for human flesh. During a grocery run to her local shopping center, Shell Pine sees a help needed sign in a flower shop window. She's just left her fiance, lost her job, and moved home to her parents' house. She has to make a change and bring some good into her life, so she goes inside and takes a chance. Shell realizes right away that flowers are just the good thing she's been looking for, as is Neve, the beautiful florist who wrote the sign asking for help. The thing is, Neve needs help more than Shell could possibly imagine. An orchid growing out of sight in the heart of the mall is watching them closely. His name is Baby, and the beautiful florist belongs to him. He's young, he's hungry, and he'll do just about anything to make sure he can keep growing big and strong. Nothing he eats, nobody he eats, can satisfy him except the thing he most desires, Neve. He adores her and wants to consume her and will stop at nothing to eat the one he loves. This is a story about possession and monstrosity and working retail. It is about hunger and desire and other terrible things that grow. So I'm not really sure what I'm gonna think about this one. It's definitely interesting. Kayla over at Books and Lala has a thing about reading books with eyeballs on the cover. And yeah. We'll see what I think. I have no idea. Definitely never read anything like this before, so this will be an adventure. All right, we are now doing roll 3 of 6. 7. This is not going well. Okay, another double. Okay, you can't really see it. It's community shelf. Here are my community shelf cards. We're just gonna pull off the top. This one is a cursive title. So that means I need to find a book where the title is written in cursive. Okay. All right, roll 3 landed me on community shelf, and it has been a hot minute since I've landed on one of these spaces, that and chance, thank goodness, because I was hitting chance like every month for a little while there. But of course, all things must come to an end. Community shelf gave me a book with a cursive title. Y'all, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, and the one that I've picked isn't exactly in full on cursive, but it's what we're gonna have to go with because it is literally the only one on my shelf that has a cursive title. So that is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is going to be on my upcoming summer TBR, so it's kind of nice that I'm able to just read it straight away. I have never read anything by this author. I know she just had a new release. I know that people don't love some of the plot devices she uses in her book, so we'll see what I think. This says, they say you can never go home again, and for Persephone Fraser, ever since she made the biggest mistake of her life a decade ago, that has felt too true. Instead of spending glittering summers on the lakeshore of her childhood, she stays home in a stylish apartment in the city, keeping everyone a safe distance from her heart, until she receives the call that sends her racing back to Barry's Bay and into the orbit of Sam Florrick, the man she never thought she'd have to live without. For 6 summers, through hazy afternoons on the water and warm summer nights working in his family's restaurant, Percy and Sam had been inseparable. Eventually, that friendship turned into something more before it fell spectacularly apart. When Percy returns to the lake for Sam's mother's funeral, their connection is as undeniable as it has always been. But until Percy can confront the decisions she made, they'll never know whether their love is bigger than the biggest mistakes of their past. Told over the course of 6 years and 1 weekend, Every Summer After is a gorgeously nostalgic look at love and the people and choices that mark us forever. So this has been on my TBR for a while. When did this come out? 2022. So I picked it up like when it was released and just never read it. So I'm kind of glad that this gives me an excuse to read it now, and also that it's one book checked off my summer TBR before I've even filmed that video. But yes, literally the only one that has a cursive title. So it's the one we're going with. All right, we are on roll 4 of 7. And we have a 7. Okay, that is historical. All right, roll 4 landed me on historical, as you saw. For that, I am going to be reading The Blackbird Girls by Anne Blankman. I wanted to read this one back in March. I had this idea to do a middle grade March vlog, and I just never filmed it, and I did not get this one read. I read the other 3 that I was gonna put in that vlog, but I didn't read this one, so we're gonna go with this one. This says, on a spring morning, neighbors Valentina Kaplan and Oksana Savchenko wake up to an angry red sky. A reactor at the nuclear power plant where their fathers work, Chernobyl, has exploded. Before they know it, the 2 girls who have always been enemies find themselves on a train bound for Leningrad to stay with Valentina's estranged grandmother, Rita Grigorievna. In their new lives in Leningrad, they begin to learn what it means to trust another person. Oksana must face the lies her parents told her all her life. Valentina must keep her grandmother's secret, one that could put all their lives in danger. And both of them discover something they've wished for: a best friend. But how far would you go to save your best friend's life? Would you risk your own? Told in alternating perspectives among 3 girls, Valentina and Oksana in 1986 and Rivka in 1941, this story shows that hatred, intolerance, and oppression are no match for the power of true friendship. So I believe, just based on this, my guess is that Valentina's grandmother is actually Rivka from the 1941 POV, but I could be wrong. I have read a duology by this author, The Prisoner of Night and Fog, and I really, really, really liked that one. So I'm very curious to read this one, and I like that it's middle grade. It should be quick, and it is one that I've wanted to read for a while. So I'm glad I was able to fit it for this prompt and check it off my TBR. All right, roll 5. We have a 10. Oh, okay, treat your shelf. That means I can go shopping and buy a new book, but I have to read it in this month. Interesting. All right, roll 5 is treat your shelf. Now, I don't do a ton of book shopping, so I don't really have anything in mind for this prompt. I do have a couple of pre-orders coming in this month, I think. One of them is the new V.E. Schwab book, which is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, and it comes out June 10th, so I could do that one. I've technically already pre-ordered it though, so it wouldn't be like going out and buying a brand new book that I was not familiar with. So I'm not going to pick a book right now for this prompt. When I recap June's TBR in my next round of Bookopoly, I will let you know what I picked and read for this prompt. But as for now, it's kind of up in the air. I'm not really sure what I want to do for this one. So we're going to hold off on picking anything right now. All right, we are on roll 6. We have a 6. Okay, that is randomized. So I have to use Goodreads to randomize a book from my TBR. This is always a dangerous prompt. So, okay, let's see what I get. All right, let's go ahead and randomize to see what it is that I'm going to be reading for this prompt. Now, a couple people mentioned the last time I did this that they didn't realize Goodreads had a randomize function. It does. You can only do it, as far as I can tell though, on a desktop. I have not been able to find the function on my phone, so just something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and record. I have set it to be on my want to read shelf. And we are going to scroll down. And then if you do it by random, it will generate a book. All right, so it has given me All That's Left to Say by Emery Lord. I need to see if I can actually get hold of this though, so I'm going to check my library's website, and if I cannot, we will regenerate. I just want to see if this is actually something that I can get my hands on, because I'm not going to buy this book when I've never heard of it before. So let's go ahead and take a look at that first, and then we'll see. Okay, it is available on Libby, so that is how I will be doing it. I can get the audio or the ebook, so that makes me think that I could also get the physical book. So, okay, All That's Left to Say by Emery Lord is going to be my random pick. Let's see what it says. It says, a poignant and powerful story of a grieving girl willing to risk everything, perfect for fans of Robin Benway and Jandy Nelson. I have had good luck with Robin Benway. I have not read anything by Jandy Nelson though, so anyway, here we go. It says, on prom night, Hannah McLaren sits in the headmaster's office in her fanciest dress, soaked to the bone. She is in huge trouble after pulling the fire alarm right as the prom queen was about to be crowned. But Hannah had her reasons. 1 year ago, her cousin Sophie, who was also her best friend and the person she loved most in the world, died of an overdose. Drowning in grief, Hannah became obsessed with one question. Who gave Sophie those pills? Who is refusing to give her family the closure they deserve? Then she concocted a plan. Enroll at her cousin's fancy private school with a new look and a mouthful of lies, and finally uncover the truth. But Hannah didn't expect all the lines to blur. She didn't expect Sophie's friends to be so complicated. She didn't expect to fall for her longtime enemy. Now she must choose to either let herself really mourn Sophie and move on, or see her search through to its explosive end, even if it means destroying herself. Okay, so this is tagged as young adult mystery contemporary thriller. So I'm curious. I think I've read something by this author before. Let me check. Yes, I read When We Collided by her and I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, we'll see what I think about this one. That's an interesting pick. I never would have chosen that if Goodreads hadn't given it to me. So, okay, All That's Left to Say is the next book on my TBR. All right, roll 7, which I'm hoping is the last one. Yes, that is a 9. Ooh, okay, buzzword. That is another one that is always helpful. All right, the last roll landed me on buzzword. Again, I've already mentioned about how I really love when I'm able to land on these prompts. I was going to read this book regardless, obviously. This is for my buzzword vlog. I've been doing them the last few months. I skipped May. I already talked about that too, but I've done one for the rest of the months. The buzzword for June is a memory-related word. So I will be reading Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot, which is the memory-related word, and it is the nonfiction that I need to read for my challenge prompt. So that's why I said it was perfect for June, because I was planning on reading this anyway. So this says, today's feminist movement has a glaring blind spot, and paradoxically, it is women. Mainstream feminists rarely talk about meeting basic needs as a feminist issue, argues Mickey Kendall, but food security, access to quality education, safe neighborhoods, a living wage, and medical care are all feminist issues. All too often, however, the focus is not on basic survival for the many, but on increasing privilege for the few. How can we stand in solidarity as a movement, Kendall asks, when there is the distinct likelihood that some women are oppressing others? So this is a collection of essays where she is just talking about the feminist movement and her thoughts on it and things that she wants to see change about it. So there are 18 essays in here. This is not a super long book. This has 258 pages total, plus like a bibliography at the back. So this is what I'm going to be reading in my buzzword vlog for June, along with the buzz cover prompt, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard that it's extremely well written. So yeah, this will be the final book on my official June TBR. Okay, let's go ahead and talk very quickly about the 2 other books that I need to read this month. The first one is the Buzz cover book. The cover prompt for June is Celestial, so I will be reading The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This one got quite a bit of hype at the end of last year, but it is very celestial. You can see all the stars and things like that, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. It is a book of the month, and I still have quite a few book of the month books that I need to read, even though I have canceled my subscription. So this will be my Buzz cover book. And then for my year-long Nancy Drew challenge, I will be on number 42, and that will be The Phantom of Pine Hill. So that is number 42. And we'll see what I think about this one. Some of these are definite misses. Some of them are decent. So yeah, we'll see where 42 falls. All right, so let's go ahead and do an official recap of June's TBR. We have This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead for a thriller, Eat the Ones You Love for the Literally Dead book club pick, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune for a book with a cursive title, The Blackbird Girls by Anne Blankman for a historical, Whatever I Pick for Treat Your Shelf, All That's Left to Say by Emery Lord for my randomized pick, and Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall for my buzzword pick. So there you go. I am very happy with this TBR. I was able to fit a few things on that I was wanting to read anyway, which is always very helpful. So yeah, I have 4 of them that I physically own, and then I will be getting whatever it is that I choose for Treat Your Shelf. And as I mentioned, I will let you know what I chose and read in my next round of Bookopoly. So that is going to conclude June's TBR. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of the video and would like to leave an emoji to show you were here, you can leave me the dice emoji, die emoji, only one of them, in honor of the dice that I roll for my game, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.